tonight's tactical enhancement is a Panhead Sucky Mon Mon, which I have to say, the Sucky Mon Mon goes down rather well, which is good because tonight we're playing Warhammer 8th edition. I'm fielding the Wood Elves against my arch nemesis Emilio, who's fielding the Ogres. Here's the battlefield with the armies deployed and ready to roll. Emilio's deployed some thematic music for background. Let's have a look at what we've brought to the table. Alright, Emilio, talk us through what you got.
Yeah, so we've got 4 Mournfang cavalry with full commands over to the left flank.
Right.
Then we've got in here the Iron Guts, and these Iron Guts are also full command. But included within the Iron Guts is the Butcher, who's a level 2 wizard. And then over to the next unit you've got your Ogre Bulls, again full command, and you've got a Bruiser who's also the Army Battle Standard. And then for firepower we've got our a unit of 4 Lead Belchers and another unit of 4 Lead Belchers, all up 1600 points for this army.
Right. So that means your standard bearer can't be general, so your Butcher is your general.
Correct.
Lovely, and we're paying 1600 point game today, just to tone it down a bit, try and play a more tactical, small scale battle. Facing the Ogres with my Wood Elves, we have trees, lots of trees. In my 1600 point army I got a level 3 mage just to take the was it Acorn of the Ages or whatever the hell it's called, the thing that gives you a D3 extra units of trees. My tree bases are about the same size as the old Citadel wood, so that works. It does however mean that my level 3 mage has got no protection whatsoever, so we'll see if he manages to blow up. And in the line we have 10 archers, all with poison arrows, 10 war dancers, all flouting their stuff there, bunch of bloody hippies. And then we have my Glade Captain, who I affectionately call Danzig for reasons that probably made sense back when I came up with that. Holding the centre we've got 3 Warhawk Riders, a level 3 mage there, that's technically the general, and I brought a standard bearer because I reckon I'll be making some break tests today. There's a tree man, an old friend of mine sculpted up many years ago. If you look at it, it's kind of anatomically correct and female, but you know, don't look a gift tree man in the mouth. And over here we've got another 10 archers with poison arrows. And then way out on my left flank, the Ogre's right flank, we have some Way Watchers who are hopefully going to cause enough of a harassment to actually knock off a unit of Ogres at some point. You'll notice that I've put my units all in the forest here to try and get the advantage for all the benefits that Wood Elves get in forests, and generally run away and hide otherwise if that doesn't work. And I also have a unit of 5 Glade Riders which are off the table and will come on from I think turn 2 or whenever it is on a dice roll. Also with Hagbane poison arrows. So the general idea is to run around and be a bastard, try not to get in a fight and shoot everyone from a distance before pissing off. Probably not the sort of heroics that the game's marketed on, but it's probably the only way to beat a giant fucking line of ogres, and those 4 Mournfang cavalry are absolutely devastating, so if I let them in amongst the guts of my army, it's pretty much done. Anyway, we will now roll a dice and go on to turn 1. Alright, now Emilio gets a +1 to the dice off for turn 1 because he finished deploying first. Highest roll gets to choose whether to go first. Or do I declare that cocked? What do you reckon? Is that falling off? Is it?
No.
I think I'm going to have to pay that one, unfortunately. Them's the breaks. Right, it's the end of turn 1 movement for the Ogres, and they have moved the line up very close to my little cubby hole here. He's deployed the Morn Fang Riders, or whatever they're called, so that I can't get too cunning with my Warhawk Riders. And he's kept his shooters far enough back that I can get caught in a crossfire if I decide to move in a clever way. Meanwhile, these fellas have decided to go off hunting elite troops in a forest. That'll be fun. So I think it's the magic phase. Are you doing anything?
Yes.
Roll some dice. 2d6. Instead of 5 and a 2.
Yep.
Roll a d6 each for our mages. Okay, so what do you want to do?
Alright, so I want to cast a friendly spell, and that spell is going to allow me to increase the strength of one unit and increase the toughness of the other, but it's 2 spells.
Alright, well, have a go at the first one. What do you want to do?
Yep. I'll start with strength.
Alright.
On them.
Righto, what's the roll you need?
A+.
A+, and he's level 2. Go your hardest.
Mate.
Well, that's strength, what, +1 or 2 or...
2.
They've already got great weapons, don't they? God.
So +1, sorry. +1 strength. It's not as significant as your Wood Elf magic stronger. So +1.
Alright, well, that'll make them toughness 7 or some shit. I'm going to let that through, I think. I don't think I've got a fuck all chance of stopping it, really.
Alright, I'll now roll for toughness.
On the other unit?
+1 toughness on them. You going to try to stop it?
Yeah, probably.
6.
So you got 12 all up. Okay, and I'll use all 5 dice.
You can try to stop it. Ooh,
oh, that stops it.
You stopped it.
Alright. So your unit that is the strongest is still the bloody strongest.
I'll put a dice to show +1 strength there, okay?
Yeah, that's going to be very unfriendly.
And that's my loot.
Yeah. Now, it's worth pointing out to viewers at this point that the way we run forests with line of sight is basically the same rule. We've lifted it from Flames of War, I think. If you're on the edge of a forest, you can be seen and you can see out to any distance. If you're within a forest, the maximum you can see each other is about 6 inches.
And at the moment, we can't see each other.
That's right. So until somebody manoeuvres and puts themselves in harm's way...
It's just a wall of trees right now.
That's right. We do it this way because direct line of sight with forest is a giant head fuck otherwise. And you basically wouldn't be able to see anything. But anyway, that's our rule of thumb to save on arguments about fire corridors between our little bases of trees and the next little base of trees and all that nonsense. It's a lot better than the old 4th through to 7th edition rule where you had 2-inch line of sight, which just fucked everybody around. Apart from the Wood Elves, but, you know, can't have it all our own way. Now, are you doing any shooting?
Oh, absolutely. That's the fun part.
Oh, here we go.
So let's just start over here. So what we're looking at is 4d6, which could be...
Yeah, I think go either way.
4 and 24 shots.
Alright, give it a go. What have we got here?
What's into them? Oh,
that's a pretty good spread. 6, 9, 10, 11, 16 shots.
16 shots. So 16 shots into them, and we're looking at those shots are going to be...
the ballistic skill 3.
Yeah, I think I'll have to check the strength.
And strength 4, I think, from memory.
Strength 4.
Now, the thing about these is these bastards can move and shoot multiple shots with no penalty, but they do still get the penalty for shooting at over half range. They're what, range 24 normally?
24.
So they're over 12.
Yeah.
And they're shooting at units in trees. and those units are skirmishers, so it's actually -3 to hit. So you're going to need 6s and then a 4+ for each of those 6s to actually hit anybody. Unfortunately, we don't have the old 6th or 7th edition rulebook for the Wood Elves, where this particular unit used to get an extra minus to hit. It used to be like -2 in a forest instead of just -1. But sadly, we'll just have to make do with what we've got.
So it might be better for me to actually go in and attack you.
Well, yeah, you got to get there first.
So how many dice was that?
16.
12, 4, 8, 12, 16 dice.
Yeah.
And I need 6s.
6s to get going and then 4s. Two 6s. Alright, then they need 4s. Nada. That's the way we like it. Alright, well that's the end of their turn. It's now over to the Wood Elves' turn 1, and I'm going to think of what the fuck am I going to do about all this mayhem. So I've manoeuvred the Wood Elves now. It's the end of turn 1 movement. The ambushing unit can't come in until next turn. What I've done is I've moved up these archers to shoot, with penalty, but still shoot, into these ogres. I've backstopped them with some war dancers and a tree man. So depending on what happens with the charge, I can choose to flee, for example, past guys who are immune to psychology. The tree man is stubborn. So that should hold, and I've got my army standard bearer and general within range to provide their buffs. So it's not 100% guaranteed, but it's a fairly stable line. Moved up these warhawks just to get some sniper shots through there, because I can't really do anything more clever just yet because of the shooters over there that'll smash me in crossfire. Now, because these heavy cav are more than 6 inches away from all my guys hiding in the forest and there's nobody facing them, they can't charge next turn. So at the moment I'm just buying time to try and whittle things down for when the inevitable crunch happens. The only other movement I've done is move up these Wood Elf shooters here. I should be able to get a lovely shot. There we go, lovely shot through the trees, or some Wood Elves popping out and shooting at some Ogre shooters over there. So their shooting will be complemented by these lovely bad boys here. I've got an old school one in there and some of the last edition of Metals, around about 6th or 7th edition, before everything went plastic and some of these guys were no longer available. The fun thing about painting guys in cabs is every once in a while you move a model forest for another game and out falls a fucking Wood Elf. Little bastards hide pretty good. Anyway, on to magic. Righto, for magic. 6 and 5, oh my god, well I get a lot of dice, and then so does Emilio. You get 6 dice. Rolled a channel. No joy, I think you get to roll a channel for your dispel as well.
Yep.
Okay, well, you get 7 dice, I get 11 dice. And there's going to be a whole lot of mucking around here, so I'll check in at the end of the magic and shooting phases. At the end of the turn 1 for both Ogres and Wood Elves. Wood Elves have not taken any casualties, but we'll see if that lasts. In the meantime, I've knocked 4 wounds. That's 1 guy and 1 bonus wound off of this elite unit of elite heavy bashers. And I've done the same thing to this unit over here. That'll cut down their incoming fire. But that's the thing with Wood Elves, you're chipping away, and how long can we afford to chip away before it turns to shit? I should note that I did manage to get a spell off to do a bit of damage on that unit. Shooting was not fantastic. And I've got the magical thingy of the thorny hedge, whatever the fuck it's called. That means that any unit that charges that tree man ends up in combat with it is going to take a whole bunch of strength 3 hits. Now it's over to the Ogre's turn 2.
So just remember that when you talk about
Alright, so I just got to remember something while I talk about it. Okay, here's what's happened. These heavy-duty elite guys charged my archers, who fled, got very lucky, and got away, but he redirected the charge into the treemen. And he moved up these big nasty heavy cavalry to threaten this unit here. So I've got a unit of 10 war dancers there, and I also have a hero here. Nothing too fancy, just a hero. And he's moved up these normal guys, basically closing in and giving me very few places to run. So not entirely sure how I'm going to break out of this, but I'll give it a crack. And his shooting units have decided to gang up on this unit of archers. It's perfectly reasonable in the grand scheme of things. So the next full turn is going to be
Carnage.
it's going to be carnage, but it's also going to be very decisive. So what I'll do is now let's go over to the magic phase, because this is going to matter in a big way. So Emilio, 2d6. 11. Oh, that's not helping me at all. And we'll roll to channel. No joy for me. I get 6 dice. You get 11 dice.
Roll the channel?
Yep. No channel.
5, 8, 6.
Right, what are you going to do? You got 2 spells.
Alright, I'll start with. I'm going to put Toughness. You going to try to stop it?
Yeah, maybe. See how we go.
How many dice have you got?
I've got 6, but I think I get to choose to do this after you've how many dice to throw in after you've done your roll.
Right, so I've got lots of dice. So
Maximum of 6 in any given roll. So this is boosting their what? Their toughness.
Toughness.
All right. Go for it. Double 6, straight in.
Straight in though. So
All
I
right.
get my toughness.
So the toughness is what, +1, isn't it?
+1.
All right. So their toughness what, 5 now, something like that.
Yep.
And you got 5 dice left. Well, no, you've got to roll on the chart. This is the favourite bit of the game. All right, let's get this bloody chart out. This is silliness on the go. Here we go. Roll yourself 2d6.
And I forgot, is it better lower or higher?
Middle is where you want to be.
Ooh,
11. Oh, 10 to 12 is a power drain. The wizard's level is reduced by d3 to a minimum of 10, and he forgets a minimum of 0, and he forgets a single spell for each wizard level lost. Just roll a d3.
1.
Oh, fuck, he's still got 1 spell left. Alright, well, this matters.
Is it only for the turn or for the game?
For the game. So on a 1 to 3, it's the spell that he just cast. On a 4 to 5, so he's lost the toughness buff. Now the spell still works for the turn because it's cast at maximum power. And unfortunately, this means you've still got 1 spell at level 1 that you can cast.
Yeah, which I would cast now.
All right, well, go for it. This is the bonus on the strength.
Yep.
All right, that's a lot of dice. And well, I stopped that one. Well, I've got double 6 on the dispel, always works.
Okay.
So, all right, so they're tough, but they're no stronger than usual, which is good because, frankly, that tree man can only stand so much. And then it's into the shooting phase. So pour the dice in.
Okay. Let's do this 4d6.
May as well do both units together. So it's 7d6.
8.
No, because I killed a guy.
Oh. Here we go.
All right, here we go.
Oh,
that's what I was looking for.
So 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 dice.
Only 1 more than last time. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
But I don't get any. There's only 1 minus now.
Yes, that's right. So they're 5s to hit, which is going to fuck up those guys rather badly.
Okay, you ready?
Yep. How many 5s you got in there?
There we go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. So now you got to roll wounds on a 3 or more.
Strength 4, isn't it?
Yeah, this is where it starts to hurt.
Yes.
You've wasted 4 of them.
Mm.
It's 40% of the unit gone. That's a morale test. And of course, the thing about these archers is, notwithstanding they're 15 fucking points each. By the way, you might notice that there's a couple less than there was before. That's because I paid for 10 and forgot that there was actually 12 on the bases when I put them down. But I've been rolling for 10, so it's had no effect on the game.
So you have to roll leadership.
Well, I've got to roll leadership and I've got to take 4 of these guys off. So, oh, dearie me.
So what's your leadership? 8, is it?
8. 9.
Ooh, no, they're off.
Alright, well, they're probably going to run away. I've just got to check that they're not within 1 foot of my standard bearer or general. But odds are they're just going to bugger off temporarily.
Yeah, totally.
And that will be it until the melee phase, so we'll check in at the end of the melee phase. Right, so at the end of the shooting and the melee and the magic, the situation is we had one melee phase that saw the tree man reduced by 4 wounds, so he's only got 1 left. And we bumped off 1 ogre. Pretty nasty fight. Gut charged it a bit, and these guys are taught up and extremely dangerous, so I have to think about what to do about them, aside from perhaps just sort of generally die, which is the most likely outcome. And of course we've got archers fleeing here, who hopefully will rally before they go off the table. Archers here, who hopefully rally before they go off the table. And it is now the start of Wood Elf turn 2. I'll check in probably at the end of the magic phase. Right, a quick recap on where we got to. Both of the Wood Elf archers units rallied. Then these guys are redeployed to shoot whatever comes through the melee here. The War Dancers and my Glade Captain have charged the Mournfang Cavalry. This is really not a desirable thing to occur, but anything else is going to be worse at this point.
Yeah.
I suppose I could have got out of the way and tried to get a flank in later on, but then these guys would be right in the back line, making life very difficult. In fact, it might have been better for me just to avoid them entirely, but hey, I'm fucking committed to it now. Let's see. This tree man's probably going to die. I tried to buff his strength, it didn't work. I did bump a wound off of this unit.
Just mentioned I used a Dispel Scroll.
Oh, that's right. I used a Dispel Scroll to stop the tree from having its toughness buffed. It's not looking good for the tree man. Yeah. These characters maneuvered out of harm's way because there's a problem with these ogres coming in and being very close to them there. It's restricting what I can and can't do, but the good news is the War Dancers are stubborn in the forest. They're skirmishers. I brought in cavalry, but because we got the sequence a bit out, I decided I won't shoot with them just to be fair, otherwise it's a bit cheesy bringing them in when you've forgotten your role. And I moved the Warhawk Riders around to keep chipping away. And the Way Watchers have been chipping away, and we're slowly getting through these units. It's going to take a while to kill them. We bumped another one off over there. But yeah, there's a few more turns of shooting to finish them off. In the meantime,
and
then combat's going to get bloody messy over here. We'll check in at the end of that. Well, the music's getting very excited, and so are we. The melee phase went rather poorly for the Wood Elves. The tree man died, he lost his last wound. They did manage to bump off another ogre before he carked it. But if you consider that is a mage in there and an elite unit of ogres, well, you know, he was outmatched. I just didn't manage to support him properly because I was too busy running away. Now, this is a fuck up. We did manage to bump off one of these Mournfang Cavalry, which is a pretty good effort. Mostly compliments of the Glade Captain's great weapon. The problem is that the Mournfang Cavalry I never should have charged in the front. I should have run around the side. Just accepted the tree man was going to die and then gotten all clever. But I stopped being clever and thought that I could fight these bastards face to face.
And they did very well.
They did. What happened was...
They should have all died.
The Mortarfang cavalry rolled just Yahtzee after Yahtzee, but then I did the same back for my ward saves. But what I didn't realise is that he has this war banner that means he gets to reroll hits and reroll wounds. And that's fucked shit up rather badly.
Dragonhide banner.
Yeah.
Lovely thing.
That just makes these guys wretched. And of course, on top of that, it has an Icy Blast bonus, which actually did more damage than melee attacks. Just through him rolling Yahtzee again on the 2d6 strength 3 hits. So the War Dancers are looking a bit worse for wear. I don't think that's going to end well. I'm going to try and bump off one more Ogre before they cark it completely. But unfortunately you can't do that icy blast on me again because that really ruined my day. Unfortunately, it is now over to the Ogre turn, and I have not been anywhere near cunning enough in this battle, and it's starting to show. Okay, well, that turn went badly. Now, we knew the treeman was going to cark it. These fellows have since moved around. The treeman carked it last turn, didn't he? These fellows have moved around to threaten the archers, and then they'll probably kill them. Over here, we bumped off another Mornfang cavalry, but Emilio rolled reasonably well, and I rolled rather shit. Whiffed all my armor and ward saves, and my Glade Captain carked it with actually very little effort applied to him whatsoever. So that's going to bug it up completely, although it's worth noting I did stuff up there. I really should have used the light infantry's ability just to run around the flank and cause them shit all day. Charging him in the face was stupid, and it probably will be one of the key things that determines the outcome of the game. Over here, so these ogres are threatening these characters with their whip around the flank. There was some shooting against the Warhawks, just knocked a wound off there. Now these ogres, they couldn't really wheel well enough to get a good line of sight. So they've decided to advance on the cavalry and archers here and try and force a conclusion from that. And that's it for the ogres, and it's only turn 3, which is pretty scary when you think about it, out of a 6-turn game. They're just carving a hole through these bloody wood elves. I'll have some thoughts about that later.
Test on these guys?
No, nobody fled. So they're basically just sitting there stomping on the corpses. I'm going to try and recover some dignity from this clusterfuck. And I'll check in at some point during the Wood Elf turn. Alright, a quick note on Wood Elf movement. This unit here has shuffled back to be out a bit further away so they can get defensive shots on those ogres when they inevitably charge, and to be far enough away from these guys that the forest blocks that charge. Just running around the trees here annoying these ogres by whispering in their ears and then pissing off. The birdies have moved back a bit to be outside of the close range, and also to make it a bit harder for those ogres to charge if everything goes wrong. And I've moved the horses here around to get some poison arrow shots into the flank of these ogres. So we're chipping away, and I'll check in at the end of the Wood Elf turn 3. Right, well, it's the end of turn 3 for the Wood Elves, and things are still dire, but it's getting a bit more interesting. These archers who rallied, they managed to bump off an ogre out of this unit, which is already wounded. So there's not many of them left. If they want to charge, they've got to weather this whole withering hail of poisoned arrows. May yet get some points out of this, whereas these guys have nothing to charge for at least another turn. Over here, we bumped off some ogres. We bumped off one and accrued another couple of wounds anyway. You may notice that there's nothing there. The combined shooting from the Warhawks and the Way Watchers finally polished off that unit, and the last guy ran away with one wound, and he won't be coming back because he's under 25%. of their original wound count. And just to put a cherry on the cake, well, two things happened. One is my mage here, he cast a spell with irresistible force and did a grand total of 1 wound to this unit, and in the process managed to accrue a wound on himself. That was useful. Then in the shooting phase, the same mage shot and wounded an ogre. We're scraping the barrel here, but this chipping away is finally starting to do enough damage that we may yet scrape some measure of pride out of what has otherwise been a bit of a fuck up on the right flank. And we'll check in again somewhere during the ogre turn 4. At the end of ogre turn 4, they have finally chased off that last unit of archers, Glade Guard. I did manage to accrue a couple of wounds on the bastards on the way through, and I nearly yahtzeed them into at least a tie, or possibly even chasing that unit off. But Emilio then yahtzeed his armor saves, so that didn't work out. I was pushing my luck there, but oh well, heroics can wait for another day. In better news, these ogres moved in and tried to blast that other unit of archers off the table. It didn't work, so we get another turn of hocking poison arrows at them to try and get rid of them. So I think in terms of the damage that the ogres are going to do to the Wood Elves, it's pretty much they've done everything they're going to this game. So now I've just got to be clever and not get caught in melee and killed like I did on my right flank, and try and bump off another unit or so. If I can do that, I can maybe scrape a tie out of this shit-hot mess. End of Wood Elf turn 4, and the chipping away continues. We bumped off an ogre and transmitted a wound to the remaining unit. And this guy's a standard bearer, I think. He decided to leave the unit to start doing some independent movement to threaten my characters, who were just running rings around these ogres here. But we managed to stay out of both charge arcs and then hit him with what's it called, Awakening of the Wood, and knocked a couple of wounds off of him. So the Wood Elves are succeeding in being very annoying bastards, but without actually causing enough carnage to offset their own casualties. We're now at turn 5 for the ogres. Okay, so this turn there was a bit of manoeuvring, and then this Leadbelter charged in. There's a bit of melee, killed an ogre, killed a couple of Wood Elves. That's about it, really. And there's only one turn left for the ogres to do anything, and there's 2 turns for the Wood Elves.
They're at 25%, so they have to make a test.
That's for... They're actually at 30%, but that test would be if you took 25% from shooting.
Right.
But yeah, that was actually a dead tie in terms of casualties. So I've got very little time to try and do some sort of damage somewhere. I think I'll just check in at the end of turn 6 and we'll just whip through the last turn and a half. Alright, so it's the end of turn 6 for all sides, and the Wood Elves have just not managed to do enough kills. We've chipped away, and the end result is all of Emilio's units are damaged. There's 2 wounds left on this unit of elites. The army leader and mage there is wounded. We've halved the size of the Mournfang. We've taken a couple of guys off of this unit, although not enough to accrue any points. We've taken half the points off of this character. We've wiped out a couple of small units. But it's all bits of points and bits of points and bits of points. And that's tallied up against half a unit of archers gone, a whole unit of archers gone somewhere else, the tree man, all the war dancers, and a captain. So we haven't worked out the points, but I'm assuming that it's in the favour of the ogres. If you're counting 50% for units which have lost 50% or more of their wounds, then I'd get enough that it's not a slaughter, but it's definitely not a victory. So I think this one's to the ogres. I think I lost this battle when I took on the Mournfang cavalry face to face instead of flanking it.
Yeah.
Everything after that was grasping at straws to try and Yahtzee my way out of trouble, which I did a few times. Unfortunately, Emilio Yahtzeed his fucking armor saves repeatedly in the face of my extraordinary luck, and well, I think at the end of the day we both threw so many fucking sixes. I can't complain that I was hard done by. I think we were both rolling very high dice rolls throughout the whole game. A lot of interesting things happened. Just one wound too few over here to cause a panic test. He actually did roll a panic test before we realised that I'd had one wound too few, and they actually rolled badly enough to fly off the table before we remembered that there's one more wound there than we thought. There's a few times where this heavy-hitting character could have carked it and just didn't. Just because the dice rolls played out not quite strong enough. And, well, the Mournfang Cavalry did what they do. I underestimated those, I have to say. Without the banner, I might have been able to sort them out, but with the banner, they fucked me right up. Both of our mages managed to do spectacularly stupid things in the miscast table. That was fun, but weirdly, they both survived. It's worth noting that my two most expensive characters are still here. The one that dies, the cheap one. And, I mean, I've done some silly manoeuvring in turn 6, but this Wood Elf force, it's battered and bruised, but it's actually still a fully operational force. It's not shattered or off the field. So,
you actually got more dangerous as the turns moved on. I mean, I'll sum it up at my end. I think the Treeman was probably a devastating blow. He attacked, he was powerful, but he was on his own. He didn't have the support to survive.
Yeah, that's true.
That's, I guess, why Chris pushed for a desperate move to engage the War Dancers to stop a flank attack to finish off the Treeman. But the Treeman was already in trouble. So the War Dancers could have been saved, and they could have continued to work effectively in the forest. This definitely was a battle table that was to the advantage of the Wood Elves, and it was points well spent to purchase extra forest. The way I see it, you were a shooter army, and your poison arrows were very effective against my ogres. And the tactics of hiding and manoeuvring through the forest were very effective. So that was like guerrilla warfare against a much stronger opponent. And by turn 6, you definitely were winning the points. If this was a boxing game, you won round 5, you won round 6, but I did my deadly blows in the second and third turn of the game. And I think after losing the Treeman and the War Dancers, it was a case of holding on. And my ogres had enough wounds and enough toughness to hold on, and that's a victory for the ogres.
Well, that's right. I can't complain about the matchup. There's nothing about the ogre army which makes them particularly immune to the Wood Elves, and vice versa, of course. The ogre army is extremely dangerous, but not invulnerable. That's why I quite like fighting against them. Emilio hit an interesting point. I could have countercharged the ogres that are attacking the Treeman and possibly messed them up so badly that I chased them off. I didn't do that because I was worried about being vulnerable to the countercharge by the Mournfang Cavalry. But as it turns out, I didn't handle the Mournfang Cavalry properly anyway. So the end result was exactly the same as my worst concerns about flank charging the ogres. So there's 2 times I could have maneuvered differently that would have totally swung the course of the rest of the battle. It might not have guaranteed a victory, but it certainly would have held me in
got us closer to a draw.
Yeah, it would have put me in a much stronger position to then possibly have secured a victory. But you never know. For every manoeuvre, there's another counter manoeuvre. So I won't say what the outcome would have been if I hadn't stuffed up those 2 opportunities. I think the shooters in the ogre army got themselves in a bit of strife. There were avoidable losses. I think if they'd backed off or picked on one target exclusively, they could have done something and survived. As it was, they sort of fell into the crossfire trap.
Well, they were outranged. They're shooting at 24 inches, you're shooting at 30 inches.